What is going on, my herd? Welcome back to another Black Sheep TV production. Today we continue our Does It Drift video series where we purchase vehicles in-game, build the car up to drift specs, and test the car rigorously to see if it has the ability to be a drift car. And yes, I'm hiding my face. I know, I don't want to show you. I crashed my Futo on the way here. We got a little bit of cosmetic damage. It's no big deal, guys. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. What we're going to do today is a little head-to-head action to figure out what is better. In the red corner is the Drift Tampa. And in the blue corner, we have the base model Declasse Tampa. And we're going to see what's better at drifting. The Drift Tampa or just the normal old stock Tampa. It's safe to say the car sounds pretty mean. Now I am learning. I just brought it straight to the track, but I am going to still be stubborn and take it for one lap, not stance. Watch them front wheels, guys. Oh, shifted on me. See that? See that coming off the front wheel? It's a four-wheel drive drifter. That's kind of what I was talking about, where it doesn't. I mean, as you can see, it does drift. Keep in mind, this is the only car that Rockstar has designed for us to actually... Oh, shifted on me again. This is the only car that Rockstar has actually designed for us, the consumer, to have a drift handling spec. Right out of there, you know, no stancing, no nothing like that. Now the reason I brought this car to this track is because this is a pretty precisely made track on being able to stay in one drift for the entire lap to lap to lap, you know, over and over. You never have to come out of your drift unless you want to. And as we saw in the first lap, I shifted the car about 3 times, just doing the normal drifting. And that's just simply because it's a four-wheel drive car. You lose your drift though, so it absolutely ends your drift. That's the problem. Okay, now I was saying earlier I have some experience in this car. I have stanced this car, and if I'm not mistaken, when you stance this car, it actually makes it worse. It wants to shift on you more frequently. So it did make it more slippery. I'm kind of eating my words a little bit here. It does drift. Oh, it's shifting. Maybe I'm not eating my words. That's 2 shifts. That was my air. I'll restart on that. That was my air. See, like these normal corners, I almost have to come to a stop to clear them in this car, which is kind of an issue. It looks great. It's a really weird drifter because of the four-wheel drive. The shift again. That's the 3rd shift. So yeah, she definitely drifts, right? I mean, I would even say that I take my word back. It does drift. So the haters that were hating, you can still hate. It's all right. It does drift under the EMDA standards. Not the most efficient by any means, but it does drift. Now the Drift Tampa is, again, it's no peach on the bank. I believe this is a $995,000 car. And so after your 120, 150,000 in upgrades, 200,000 in upgrades, yeah, it's a literal $1.2 million car here. So moral of the story, just it won't do the long drifts. I mean, these mid drifts it'll do. This is about its radius without shifting. I start trying to bring it a little bit wider. Yep, there's the shift. So that's your radius. That's the distance you can clear. So think of corners. Not too bad. I mean, it really isn't too bad. And I mean, it's pretty speedy too. It's pretty speedy. So you get a little bit of feel of what it's really like there. Let's go test its base model. See what it's like. Here's another weird oddity. Declasse Tampa, muscle car. Declasse Drift Tampa, sports car. Still looks good. You can tell they did use the base body for what they put together over there. That engine's different though. That's for sure. Okay, guys, so I have not tried to drift this thing. I honestly can't even say that I've really driven it other than stock. I don't even want to say that I drove it out. I guess I did. I drove it for a little bit, but I haven't tried to drift it at all. So I guess we'll try it. We'll give it a shot. Let's give it a shot. Not stance and see what we're dealing with here. Does the base model drift? Oh, that was just all gas right there for my entry. Now we're on the e-brake, of course. Wow. Very slow. Wow. It's got a lot of weight. The car is very heavy. Very heavy car. Car hasn't shifted on me once though, and that's pretty awesome. Again, that's my error again with over rotation, but I'm just oversteering because I'm not used to this car personally. It's really kind of a fun car though. I'm kind of just not talking and just driving, and that's not the best thing to do. I am recording after all, trying to make some content here, so. I keep spinning out like that. That's the biggest thing. As soon as we get back to the beginning, I'm going to stance this thing and see how much it switches it up. But 110%, as I always say, this thing is driftable. Let's stance it. See what we got here. Oh, shit. I'm calling my car back in. I don't think I was at any type of weird angle there by any means. So we already found out that the front tire will stance, but this rear wheel, I've seen it drop once. No, I'm not giving up yet. I got a couple little tricks here yet to do. Let's try this. So instead of hitting it here, that was even worse. Don't tell me this car's not stanceable. Come on, back here. Oh, there you go, guys. Let me try to hit the other side without it blowing up. That was successful. In the back there, right here. I mean, I'm being sloppy with it. You don't have to get the bullet holes in there, of course. Being a little sloppy with it. Looks pretty similar to the exhaust system I have on my Dominator. Much of a difference other than it being lower. It might actually drift a little bit further. Might carry momentum a little bit more too. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing I noticed is it's just a little bit more momentum being carried. Seems like it might be a little bit easier to transfer left to right though. I have to a little bit easier on the e-brake instead of being so precise with it. Pretty much what the normal stance does for you in GTA. It kind of makes your car a little bit more forgiving to error. Man, I am impressed with this car. I really am. You know, when I put this head-to-head together, I kind of laughed. This thing genuinely outperforms the Drift Tampa. I mean, this thing's just going to do it slow. She's going to get the job done. What this car reminds me of isn't so much a drift car. It's just really an overpowered old-school muscle car. Maybe even a 500, 550 horsepower muscle. Just enough to really be roaring and keeping those tires rolling. Just wanted to update you guys on my medical condition. I am looking good. Beautiful as ever. Beautiful as ever. Alright, let's get to the grading. Since we tested it first, we'll grade it first. The Declasse Drift Tampa. First off is cost. This car is, I think this is the most expensive car we have done on this series so far at $1.2 million. And there's really no getting around that either. It's $995,000 stock. You need to put in the upgrades. That's minimally $120,000. I really can't remember what I all did to this thing, guys. I built this car a while ago. I just know that I did set it up to the general drift specs. Obviously, we've seen it stance and all that. It doesn't have the bulletproof tires. It doesn't have the armor. And the cost is, from what you get out of it, drifting and being at such a niche, niche, however you want to pronounce that word. I mean, It's poor. If this car was more in the $400,000 range, should be scoring pretty average, but it's not. It's $1.2 million. It's extremely expensive, so I can't even begin to think that I can give this thing over a 4. I'm going to give it a 4. So it's got a 4 in cost for me. Driftability? I mean, the driftability, again, we're going to say it again, it's very niche, and I'm scoring it poorly here too, unfortunately, guys. The driftability on this thing, again, it's like since I said it wasn't driftable in my earlier video, and it is driftable, I'll give it a little bit of the benefit of the doubt and give it a 5 instead of a 4.5 or 4 like I was thinking here as well. So we'll go 5 on the driftability. It's kind of just asinine to go any further past that. And efficiency then. Tying in both those factors, you don't have to do any type of odd stancing. Not the most efficient drifter. Efficiency on the car, we'll go again with a 5. Below average for me. Under the EMDA standards, that is, of course. Again, if you want to drift under that specific guideline or where you want to do a specific thing on your free time or in a free mode, then this may be the car for you. If you're looking under the EMDA drift standards, trying to keep that drift steady and rolling, this is not the car for you. Save the 1.2 million, guys, by all means. That brings us for a total then 14 out of 30 for our lowest scoring car and our most expensive drift car. Let's look over at the mother then, the donor car of that car, what they started with. And the messed up thing here, guys, is I can already tell you that it's going to score over a 14. So that's the whole funny thing of why I put these things together. It did work out in the comical way to where the car that is not designated by Rockstar to drift is a much better drifter under our standards than the car that was designated the only car in the game that Rockstar has given us with a drift orient. Relatively funny. Let's get to going on it. Cost $375,000. It's of course in that $120,000 to $140,000 upgrade range for the upgrades with the turbo transmission and engine. So then we're adding in, of course, the extra $120,000, $130,000, $140,000 for the engine, the transmission, and the turbo. Looking like we put some aftermarket tires, but those could be stock. Those could be stock. We might not have messed with them. Cost to what you're getting, it's a very slow drifter, very heavy. The momentum is very cumbersome. It really follows you into the drift, and it will oversteer you in the beginning. It is kind of hitting that bank note right there at the $520,000, $550,000 range, so it's kind of hurting the bank a little bit. It is pretty slow. Again, I'm going to say that I'm going to give this thing a 6.5 for cost of what you're getting out of it for drifting. Driftability then, it is very driftable. I mean, there's no saying that, and it's not really niche either. You can go short turns, you can go long turns. Of course, the short turns are going to be a lot slower, the long turns are going to be a lot slower. That's just the type of drifter it is. The driftability is a lot higher, in my opinion. I'd say the driftability in this thing is probably an 8, if not even an 8.5. I'll stay conservative since we scored the Drift Tampa so low. We'll go with 8 there, which then brings us into the efficiency factor, keeping in the cost and the driftability factors that we already went into. The stancing was a little bit weird. We did have that issue. Of course, you have to shoot it in that back area, right behind the wheel, between the wheel and the actual panel itself there. And once you did stance it, seems like it's a little... I honestly preferred it more not stance, but that's my preference. We didn't try too much with it stance. We just seen, like we were saying when we were doing it, it's very standard to stancing a drift car in GTA. You're getting that same output. It's a little bit more slippery. The momentum's a little bit more, and it's a little bit more forgiving. So efficiency, I'm going to give it a pretty solid 7.5 there for efficiency. So we scored a 6.5, an 8, and a 7.5. So all in all then, that brings us out of 22 out of 30 for this model and 14 out of 30 for this model. Alright, this is the drift model. This is not. We were judging on drifting, okay? I'd be raising an eyebrow too, guys. And as always, my black sheep herd, I appreciate you guys tuning in. You guys have been subscribed. We've been building those subscriptions. It's a slow but a positive journey here. I'm only a couple weeks old. I appreciate you guys that are subscribing, the ones that are commenting, the ones that are part of the herd truly. You guys are the ones that are going to keep me around and keep me doing this type of stuff. There's much more to come. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, that's for sure, but helping me out will definitely keep my existence a much more permanent basis. Of course, I want you to stay happy and stay positive out there, and we will speak to you next time.